No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the End of the Hood Show. Thanks for joining us. I'm Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
866-594-4150. That's how you can get on Under the Hood with us. We've already got callers lined up right out of the gate.
They are ready to go under the hood.
Oh, boy. What do you got, Doug? Here we go. All right, let's jump right in. That's what we're here for. We're going to talk to JR in Minnesota with an 03 F-150. How you doing, JR?
I'm doing great, and thanks for taking my call.
You're very welcome.
I just got to say, you guys, you have a great show. I've listened for many years, and I can't tell you how many times you have helped me out, and you have saved me a ton of money. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Okay, I just have three basic questions about a Ford, an 03 Ford F-150. The concern I have is has a Triton V8. The guy that's selling this tells me that 03 is before the cam phasers and current problems. Is that true?
True.
There you go.
It is true.
Yep. The 04 up generation is when we first started having those problems of like that. Now there's some other weird little problems that can come up in the 5.4s previous, but if it runs strong and sounds smooth and the oil pressure is consistent, you're not hearing any knocking or anything like that. Those motors were proven. The 5.4s, the 4.6s, they used them in cop cars. They used them in Lincoln Town cars. They used them in Ford Crown Victorias. They put them in limousines. They had done a lot of proving of that 4.6 modular block 5.4 motor before it arrived in the pickup in 1997. I think it was.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that sounds good. I appreciate that. What kind of fuel injection would an engine like this have? Is it a throttle body or is it a multi-port? Do you know?
It's a multi-port fuel injection.
Yeah, it's got an injector at each cylinder, and it's injecting into the intake. Unlike the more modern engines today nowadays, we've got direct injection right into the cylinder head. But sequential multi-port injection, sequential port injection, that has been commonly used. The first one I think of was my old Camaros and stuff, but they were used in Mercedes and other vehicles long before that.
Yeah, mechanical.
So it's a proven method.
Okay. Now, one other question. There is one slight issue with it. It does have a cracked manifold on the passenger side. Can you give me some idea what that might cost to replace?
It just depends on where you go and how many bolts needed to be drilled out or welded and backed out or rethreaded, those kind of things. Yeah. But you could be anywhere from probably $400 to $1,000 for one side, depending on how bad it is.
Russ, give our listeners the 30-second explanation of what happens there, why there's so many of them that break.
Well, with heat, the manifold will start to warp, and when it starts to warp and the bolts become brittle, the manifold moves, and it's like a press. It pulls away from the head, pops the bolt off, and people think, "Oh, the bolt just fell out." No, it didn't fall out. There's nothing. The hole is flat inside when you put something in there. So you're like, well, all I have to do is take the manifold off and put new bolts in it. No, you need to put a new manifold on it and new hardware. Dorman Products not only sells manifolds, they sell hardware. And the reason they sell hardware is because every time you pull a manifold off, it's really a great idea to replace all of your hardware on there. Never reuse the old bolts. They get brittle and they will break even faster the second time around.
Okay. With this information, if I would do this, would it be better for me to do both manifolds and just have it done if it can be done?
You can do one at a time if only one is leaking, but I think what you're going to find is when most people hear one manifold leaking and they fix it, they come back and say, I still have an exhaust leak. Well, you do. You have one on the other side. Well, you just fixed it. No, we fixed let's say the right side that was very loud, and now you can hear the other side. So the right side's not just quieter, It's completely quiet. Now the left side's making some noise. So we find that more than 3/4 of the time that we do it. 75%. We do
Okay.
one and the other one's leaking already. So you may budget for 2, but you may be able to get away with just 1 if that's all it needs.
Okay. One other question came to mind. Any transmission issues? This is a 4-wheel drive.
Not that
Not
bad.
crazy. I mean, they're
Like
trucks.
any truck.
People can break them, but
Yeah.
as a rule, not really. I would just make sure it's in good condition. That still has a dipstick. Pull the dipstick, inspect the fluid,
Sure.
and assuming they haven't just changed it and it's still got a good color to it, pretty decent, and it doesn't smell burnt. It might be a good time to flush it after you get it if they can't prove that they've done that recently. But if it smells burnt and it looks
Okay.
really dirty, then you might be nervous.
Okay. All right. Well, I really appreciate it, guys. This answers the questions that I need to consider. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Do that. Merry Christmas to you guys.
You too. All right, we're going to jump in. We're going to take one more here. We're going to talk to Lyle with a 2011 Pilot in Tennessee. How you doing, Lyle?
I'm doing great. I'm going to throw you a little bit of a out of season question
Okay.
right now. I was on a road trip a couple of weeks ago, and at highway speeds, my air conditioning stopped blowing cold
Sure.
and just blowing hot air. And then when I got home, just driving around town, the air conditioning is working fine. And I've taken it to a couple of shops, and they've seemed reluctant to dive into it, especially this time. You said it's hard to check air conditioning in cold weather. So I just thought I'd get your opinion.
It is very hard to test it because you can bring it into the shop where we'll put an exhaust hose on it. We'll run it at a 75-degree temperature in there, and we can check everything that way. We can even run the engine at, let's say, 2,100 RPM highway speed and see if it drops out. But if we do that and it doesn't drop out, then you're limited to summer, because as soon as we take it outside, the compressor is going to disengage in our cold weather, and it's just not going to be easy
Right.
to find. But if they bring it inside, that's the first thing they need to do is get it inside and try to run it with the AC on at that highway RPM and see if it shuts off. There could be a couple things.
What do you suspect, Russ?
Well, it could be a refrigerant issue. That would need to be checked first, of course, but it could also be something in the engine shutting it down. If it's got a code in there that's coming up on the highway and then shutting off when it goes back to low speed, it could be telling that compressor to shut off. If you've got a bad throttle body and that throttle position sensor thinks it's at a higher RPM, it will shut off under certain loads. So that could be an issue right there. So something to...
I am at 181,000 miles,
Sure.
and I don't know if that has anything to do with it. That air conditioning is going to need to be serviced in that amount of time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you're at about the time where it's going to be due for
it's more likely
recharge.
that a seal can start leaking somewhere, a fitting, when you get to that age. It's just had a lot of vibration and a lot of age on the seals.
Right.
And I will tell you, though, we get those vehicles in that are end of life because the engine broke and it still runs. It's just got a rattle in it. We can turn them on and the AC still works, and it's got 250,000 miles on it. I just don't know if that's been worked on before that or not. But we take off some compressors that look like they've been on the vehicle the whole time, and they've got a lot of miles on them, and they're still sealed up. So it's not a foregone conclusion that it's just going to go bad, but you're starting to get into that territory where you could have some problems with compressor seals or seals in the lines.
I sold an Odyssey 2 years ago with 260,000 miles on it. I'm a diehard Honda fan.
Did the AC still work on that one?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
everything worked great. Neither of these cars, and we also have a CR-V, and those have just been practically maintenance free. It's been wonderful.
No, Honda makes a good vehicle. We find that from our listeners all the time. A lot of proud Honda owners out there. We do fix Hondas, but they not as often as we fix other brands that are out there. But I think that
something else into the mix. Sometimes when I'm turning at low speed to the right, I get this scraping sound like there's a stick under the car. And there's obviously not. Is that pull, a sharp turn like that, that wouldn't have anything to do with any of this, would it?
No, it's probably got a brake shield or something dragging under there. That could be
Okay.
as simple as just reaching under there when it's cool and bending it back from the wheel a little bit. It's probably just touching as it moves. The wheel bearing
Okay.
moves and it'll
Yeah,
allow it to
and
touch.
then and you could do a good physical inspection just to make sure that none of your shields on the inner fender have came loose. That are touching, because they're not snapped in place where they're supposed to be. That is not uncommon too. You catch something on the road and it can pop one of them shields loose, and then when you turn, it rubs on that and it makes a stick dragging noise.
Yep.
if it's hitting on that too.
Okay.
But I don't
Now I'll
not
throw you a
not
real-
related to the AC though. I don't think.
Nope.
Okay. Okay, now I'll throw you a real curveball. Just in my Pilot, my dog starts barking like his life is threatened every time I turn on the turn signal. Yet in the other Hondas, in the Odyssey and the CR-V, the turn signal does nothing. So
Doesn't
figure
like
that one out.
Doesn't like the turn signal noise.
Whatever frequency that must be at must be a bad one for his ears. That's interesting.
That's the first time I've ever heard.
Yeah,
that,
we've had
but
a lot, 30 plus years of doing this show, and we've had some interesting comments, and that's a good one. So
I sure wish I could find a way to change that frequency.
So you've tested this by bringing them into different vehicles, and I like the fact I want to be around when you're testing. What's the dog? What's the dog's name?
Murphy.
Murphy's Law.
And yeah, exactly.
Does that one?
we
that comes out the
we
speakers.
take long
doesn't it?
dog walks and listen to your show during the walk.
Oh, thanks. Does that come out the speakers or does it come out from under the dash? That noise.
I have no idea.
Listen for it. If it comes out under the dash, you can find the box that it comes out of. Put a piece of tape over it just to change the noise a little bit. But I think that one comes out of the speakers. But it's an 11. It may still come out under the dash, out of the module. So if it does, get under there and put put a piece of gauze over it, bandage over it, and with a piece of tape to filter it,
muffle it a little bit,
just to change the pitch. Of it a little bit.
Interesting thought.
All right.
I'll try that, and you'll make my dog very happy if that works.
All right. New dog
And
treat
me.
for Christmas. Thanks, Lyle. Take care.
All right. Thanks so much.
You bet. Wow, that was an interesting call. But
if that works for us, I think that is going to go down as an all-time diagnosis.
Oh, man. I love it. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. That's why we're here. Those calls are great. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a short break. The End of the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant's.
Some are born with a silver spoon in their mouth. For these guys, it was a torque wrench and a multimeter. This is Under the Hood.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. I'm Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom. And your calls, of course. And we're just going to jump right back into it. We got them lined up today. You can give us a call, too. We'll be glad to help you out. We're going to talk to Brian with a 89 Silverado in Illinois. How you doing, Brian?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Oh, we're all right. Thanks for calling Under the Hood. What can we do for you on your Silverado?
Well, so I bought this about 2 weeks ago. I bought it, and I knew that I had this issue. It's got the 350 in it. Of course, it's a two-wheel drive. And I bought it, and at the time they told me about it, so I knew it. But it runs great when it's cool, but as soon as it warms up, obviously it's an automatic transmission. As soon as it warms up, if it's in gear or maybe even like neutral or your foot's on the brake, I've even had it do it once when my foot was off the brake, but in neutral, but the car will die, or I should say the truck will die. So it runs like perfectly down the road, no issues. But as soon as it starts to warm up or gets warm enough and you're at like a stoplight or something like that, it'll die, unless you got like your foot on the gas or something like that. So I'm trying to troubleshoot what it might be. Other than that, it runs like really strong.
How many miles are on this big bad 89 Silverado two-wheel drive?
Yeah, a lot of them. About 245,000.
And as far as you know, what has anything major been done to it, or any parts that were replaced that they told you about?
No, oh yeah, that's a good question. they said that they replaced the fuel pump, and I don't know if that was like a couple months ago or it was probably within the last year.
Okay, well that's just something we're just always curious about, if they've been chasing this or if it's just kind of a new arrival problem. Because on that throttle body engine, I hear Russ talking with people about these because they've been, they were around forever. I mean, they started using that motor in 1987, and they used it clear till 1996 when they came out with the Vortec, and it's been a proven good engine. But they had some problems that we run into with these kind of issues with the EGR valves. And also with the distributor, just getting bad, and that can be a problem where they start acting funky like that. Russ, what do you think, based on what he's told us, is maybe it's none of those two? I just know that's things we talk about quite a bit on these trucks.
Yeah, the distributors on those, that's what I'm really leaning to because of the issues we've seen on that with it stalling. I mean, you can have issues with the throttle body just being dirty. A little bit that can cause some issues with it. You clean that, and then on that one, that's a hard reset type vehicle. You disconnect the battery on it and let it sit. We usually will disconnect the battery and then hook the two cables together for about a minute to give it a hard reset, and then we will hook the cables back up after we clean the throttle body, start it up, and see what it does. But those distributors on those, if they're not broken, they are they're waiting. They're waiting to break.
I got it.
And
I thought maybe that.
I was just gonna say, if you've checked everything else, can he unplug that EGR and see if it changes anything, Russ, or would that not be the situation of what's going on here?
I don't think so. No, I mean the EGRs do have some issues on those. If they're leaking a little bit, you could unplug it to test it by all means.
That's what I mean, just to test it and see if it changes the problem. But otherwise, just buy yourself a remanufactured distributor with a good warranty and put that in there, and I think that's going to be your most likely suspect.
Okay, and is that too terribly difficult to replace, or just bring it out, put it back in the same way?
Pay attention to which way everything's pointing when it comes out, and mark it, take a picture, whatever you got to do if you're not familiar with that, and just put it back in exactly the same way. Make sure everything's pointing the same direction and put it back in exactly the same way. And if it's not hard then at all.
Got it. Well, I'll certainly give that a try, and hopefully that'll fix it. I got some other things to do with it, so I've got a little bit of time to get it up and running, but hopefully that'll fix it.
Yeah, try unplugging that EGR valve as a test, though, and just see if it runs any different. And if it does, that could definitely be something to pay attention to.
That help you out?
Okay. Yep, it did. I'll try some of the smaller issues, and then if none of those, then I'll go straight for the distributor. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Take care.
All right.
All right. We're going to jump right in, and we're going to.
And I just want to throw in quick, Russ. We're assuming when we say something like that engine is healthy.
Wow,
but I mean, if he had a cylinder that had some valve issues or something, and that thing wasn't, or maybe a couple of them, and it just wasn't all 8 cylinders within a fair range of normalcy to each other, that could make it definitely, as it idles down, idle rough and not. But then once you get some RPMs into it, you could overcome that. But that's just assuming that on a leak down test or a compression test that the engine is degree of normalcy between the cylinders. At that age, you can't expect it to be all identical and to be all high compression and no leakage, but you just want them all to have worn similarly. Would that be the right way to say that?
Yeah, that makes sense for sure.
Okay, sorry, but I just wanted to get that in there for him.
All right, we're going to jump over. Let's talk to Jerry in Minnesota. Hey, Jerry, how you doing?
Yeah, doing all right. I've got a 2013 Honda CR-V. It's an auction purchase. It was a fleet vehicle, so I don't know the history on it. But when we test drove it before we bought it, it had a thump. I was going to say a clunk, but I think a thump describes it better. As you drive, the thump would be in rhythm. The faster you go, the faster the thump would go, but it was evenly spaced. The irony is, after we bought it, I had my 2 teenage boys with me. They jumped in the vehicle, and they're big boys. And after they got in the vehicle, the thump went away after we drove just a short distance. I tried to figure out what was going on.
Well, we have some ideas on this one. We're going to take a short break. We're going to come back. We're going to recap this one.
We're going to bring the thump.
We're going to give you our ideas. Hang on, Jerry.
Thank you.
This is the Under the Hood Show. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant's, 866-594-4150.
Find us on radio, YouTube, Facebook, and podcast by searching Under the Hood Show. Just like Chicken Man, we're everywhere.
Thanks for joining us on Under the Hood. I'm Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom. All right. We were on the phone here talking with Jerry in Minnesota with a 13 CR-V, which has a noise, but when he puts his kids in the back of it,
his heavy kids,
the noise goes
his
away.
His big boys.
Yeah. That actually makes sense to us. And what we see often in that is a problem with the rear drive shaft. The drive shafts wear out and make noise, but also the exhaust shield will break free of its mounting back there. And when it does, it will lay on the drive shaft. And that drive shaft changes angles with weight in the vehicle. So if it's touching the drive shaft and it's scraping, you put people in there and it moves, the angle will change, the shield angle will change, and it won't scrape any longer. So very likely that's what's going on. What we would do to check that would be to bring it in, put it on a hoist, get a flashlight, and look at the shield very closely and see if there's any scrape marks anywhere on that shield. And if there are, we're going to move the shield away from the area of the scraping. But that's probably going to fix it. Carry your kids.
I'll just send my kids under there and have them do that.
There you go. They could do that too.
But inspect that, because I mean there are other things that could. When you mentioned like a thump, it could be strut top plates that are getting worn. And then maybe when the angle changes with the weight in the back, it just doesn't feel the same. But we've seen enough issues with those. What Russ is describing with the shield and the drive shaft, but just the way you describe that as a thump does make me wonder, though, if it's something else going on. But that is definitely a common thing that we're talking about to check.
Well, thank you. I wondered if it was possibly a CR-V or CV joint, and we figured, hey, it's going cheap enough, we can get a deal on it. But then the problem went away.
Well, I think you just got to do more family trips and not worry about it.
There you go.
There you go.
Thanks for the call, Jerry.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to jump over and we're going to talk to Greg with the 2018 GMC Sierra. How you doing, Greg?
Hey, good, Russ. Hey, I'm going away on vacation for a few months and leaving the Sierra sitting. It's a diesel. Just wondering, with the two batteries, does a guy have to get two battery tenders, or am I better off just disconnecting the battery? What do I need to do if I'm going to leave that thing sit for a few months?
That is a great question, and we have it on occasion, but usually it's people calling the shop asking me about that. When you're storing a vehicle with two batteries, whether it's a diesel or a gas engine, and they're connected directly together like your diesel is, positive to positive, and the negatives are both on the ground, where with what happens to one battery happens to the other. There's no way around it because they're physically linked, not with no isolator like an RV or a boat or something like that. You can put one battery maintainer on there and it will maintain both batteries if you've got a good maintainer. One of our partners in Optima Batteries has a maintainer. They've got a line of maintainers, and they've got all their maintainers are set so that they can maintain a dual battery setup like that. As long as the batteries aren't completely dead, if you want to charge them, you definitely want to pull the negative off of the other battery and fully charge each one individually. But to maintain them like that for long-term storage, sure, leave them connected. And on the Optima chargers, you just connect the battery maintainer to it and select your battery source. There's an automatic setting too, but you select your battery source, whether it's an AGM battery or a lead acid battery setup you have in there, and always make sure that any dual battery vehicle, both batteries are 100% identical, same age, everything. When one fails, you replace them both as a pair, preferably AGM batteries, and then you're not going to have the issue. But your question, yeah, you just leave them hooked up, put the battery maintainer on there, and run it, and you should be just fine.
Because there's some battery maintainers out there you can buy that are very affordable, and they're like 0.75 amps. They're made for like more a lawn tractor or a scooter.
Right, and those aren't going to.
You got to get something that's decent, and you'll spend. There's some good. There's some really good. That Optima one is awesome, but you can spend less than $100 in the $100 range and get a very, very good battery maintainer that will serve you for years.
All right, sounds great.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so you bet. So Shannon, I've tried that on my truck. I've tried the cheap maintainer. Didn't do the job, but once I started using that Optima maintainer about 5 years ago, I've had no issues when I park that for extended periods. They just work.
Oh, that's awesome.
Really well.
Get something you like and it works. That's a good deal. I know that I was just up moving some of my dad's cars around and my own to get things put away for the winter. And on one of his Corvettes, he's got a 2011. It's actually Mom's car, not his. I just about had an event. But I couldn't remember. I've had an event in that car before, but I couldn't remember where the emergency release is. And when I got in it to try to start it and move it, the battery was dying on me at the same time. And the first time I pushed the power door latch, it wouldn't work. And the fob was dead because there was enough power that it could tell me that the fob battery wasn't good enough. So I'm sitting in the car with a dead fob and a battery that's starting to make funky noises inside the car because modules are kicking on and off. And I just stayed patient, turned a couple things off, and then the door unlatched and I got out. But that's the original battery since 2011 in that car. And even with the maintainer on it, it's time.
Oh, boy.
But that's just things you got to watch for. Because even with a maintainer, you can have batteries that will die. And that was my point. They can only last so long, and then eventually they will give up.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? We should give away a hoodie. We should give away a hoodie here, courtesy of our friends over at Universal Technical Institute and Berkeley One Classics, celebrating 50 years of collector car insurance. And Berkeley One Classics is always looking to expand. So if you've checked before in the past, it's been a couple years since you've checked, you said, oh, they're not in my area. They're in many more areas now. So definitely go to Berkeley One Classics and check them out today. But I'm going to give away a hoodie here to Marty Kellogg from Lansing, Michigan. Congratulations from everybody at Universal Technical Institute and our friends over at BerkeleyOneClassics.com. Now we're going to jump back into the phones, and we're going to talk to Joe in Tennessee with a Lincoln MKX. Hey, Joe.
Howdy.
What's up with that Lincoln?
So I have a Lincoln MKX. It's a 2010. It has about 136,000 miles on it.
Okay.
And as we were starting to get towards cold weather, I noticed that the heat on the driver's side is not functioning, but it is fine on the passenger side. I decided to take a $40 risk and change the actuator motor on the driver's side.
Sure.
It didn't do anything. So I will state that it seems once it gets cold, been doing this the past couple summers where it almost sounds, or winter as you're going into winter, like a little popcorn underneath the dash for some reason. I didn't know if it was something vibrating or something dealing with the cooling itself. And so I'm just kind of curious whether I have a plugged heater core or I have something else going on.
Well, does it still make that clicking noise, that click, 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 click sound?
It's not. Yeah, I don't hear a click, click, click sound. I think it's almost more like across the top of my dash. I hear kind of almost like it was a rattling noise. So I was, of course, when that's been going on for a couple of years. The heat that just no longer goes to the driver's side just started when I tried to crank the heat on about a month ago. And so that's brand new and was never an issue historically.
Okay, you might want to try to flush that heater core out first. Just take the hoses off,
Okay.
flush backwards and forwards, both directions on that. You may want to try to take them off at the motor end, not at the firewall, because those can be kind of brittle up there. So go on the engine side, disconnect them both there, and then just get yourself a garden hose and blast through both directions on that. And then hook it back up and see if it changes. If it does change and you get more heat, you definitely have a heater core that is
compromised.
It's compromised for sure. And then at that point, if it changes at all, then you can go into a shop that has a flush tool that uses air and water to really clean it out. And that may fix you up so you don't have to pull that whole dash, because that's over $1,000 when you get into that. So you definitely would want to see if you could get her done that way.
Yeah, that was my fear, is that if we're going to replacement mode, going on 14 years, and so I'm heading the direction eventually of a new car, but I would definitely like to get this in working order before I move on. So, and when you say flushing on the engine side, you're saying
follow the hoses
from the firewall to where they plug into the engine and disconnect them there?
Correct. Follow them to the engine and then disconnect them there. Yep, that'll be the best way for that.
Okay. Just go and shoot some water in there and see what happens, see if I see any improvement. Okay.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Joe.
Appreciate the advice.
You bet.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a good one. Bye.
Yeah, that the heat. This is the time of year for heat, and if you've got no heat, you're gonna know it. So, the heater core flush is important. Take the hoses off, flush through them. Use a good quality antifreeze. Peak antifreeze is what we'd recommend for that. New thermostat. If you've got one that has weak heat, a lot of the cars now will even give you a code on the dash that says, when you read it, it'll say thermostat did not, engine didn't reach operating temperature as fast as it should. So you need to put a thermostat in that thing, and putting a thermostat in, make sure you get a Motorrad thermostat. Those will regulate the temperature quicker and hold it there longer before it dumps and opens back up again. Because you'll notice when you're driving down the road, especially before the engine has been running for like a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, when it's super cold, the temp will just kind of go up and down in the cabin coming out. If you got it on full hot and you were to measure it, you'd see it going up and down, because that thermostat is just not regulating. It opens up and it sees that blast of super cold, maybe 10-degree water coming out of there, coolant, and it just goes, it shuts super fast or opens super fast, and whereas the Motorrad will regulate more.
And this is where it comes into play. I mean, that Lincoln that he brought up in his conversation was an MKX, the crossover.
Mm-hmm.
That's, we're 14 years old.
Yeah.
If
how
that
many
is
times is it opened and closed?
A bunch. But if that is still the original coolant in that car, it's one of the things that people just don't always think about. But if it would have been flushed potentially at the 5 to 7 year mark, 8 year mark, you can kind of avoid maybe some of these later life problems, potentially. Now, there's sometimes they get a little started and it just deposits anything in the system, kind of lands in the heater core. Because the passages have gotten so small, and they are super efficient cores.
Oh, yeah.
But they don't do well.
They'll clog
with extra stuff in them.
We're going to take a quick break. Under the Hood will be back in just a moment. 866-594-4150. We'll take your calls and help you out with some free automotive advice. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturtevant's.
If car repair was cheap, you wouldn't need us. We're Under the Hood.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. I'm Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom. And we've got you with us, so that's what really makes the show, is that we've got you with us. We're going to talk to Frank in Wisconsin with an 06 Grand Prix. Hello, Frank.
Hello. Hey, I got a 06 Grand Prix. And the engine light goes on every so often to 3.8, 3800. And it's got about 300,000 miles on it.
So it's just
What?
broke in.
It just broke in with 3.8. I bought it only because it was a 3.8 about 20 years ago. Anyway, the engine light goes on every so often. It can be today, tomorrow, 2 months from now. I'll be going down the road, engine light goes on, it'll say power down, reduce power.
Oh, sure.
And all I do is pull off the road, shut the engine off
Huh?
for 10 seconds. Turn it back on, starts right up right away, and I can go like as if nothing happened. And it'll do this sporadically. Like I said, it might be every so often. And it just did it 2 days ago. I thought I had it fixed. I got some spray to spray on the throttle body.
Sure.
Spray. Because there's a screen in there, and it was clean, but it was just a little black.
Gotcha.
And then around the throttle body itself on the engine, I sprayed some other kind of stuff that I also bought. And that made it better. No, I don't know. It
Changed
didn't,
it. Did something to it.
Changed it.
So-
It might have did something, but I don't know.
Well, let's talk about that reduced power because that's a pretty good sign.
They have a lot of problems with those cars with the throttle body on them and that reduced power. So if you have cleaned the throttle body and then cleared the codes out of it and driven it and it's changed, that's telling me that there's still something going on with that throttle body. And we have replaced a large number of them on all GMs that in that era right there in 06, 07, 08 with the electric throttle body, whether it's an Impala, a Malibu, a Chevy truck, this Grand Prix, all of them had this issue as that throttle body would get dirty and start to stick. You would have that issue. So you may have to put a throttle body on it. That may be the fix for it, especially since you're telling me you cleaned it and it at least it changed something. It may not have, made it brand new, but it did change something.
If you are near a self-service yard, you could probably go out and pick up a throttle body for less than $15. A throttle valve, excuse me. It's not a throttle body on that car. And replace it because they're real commonly all the same for a lot of years there, for quite a few years. And maybe even grab a mass airflow sensor while you're there. But I would just switch out that throttle valve and it will most likely solve that problem. And if it does, run that one for a while. And if not, remanufactured ones, new ones, are they $100 give or take, or are they more than that, Russ?
I think they're
like
160.
300.
Oh, you should be able to find one cheaper than that. That seems high, but maybe I haven't had to purchase one new in a little while.
Yeah,
Couple
if
years
there's a
in.
self-service yard somewhere nearby, I'd go unscrew one and for a little small investment, you could test.
Can that throttle body be taken apart?
No, don't do that.
No.
It's all calibrated and it would affect your
Oh.
pedal. It's all electric throttle, so you don't want to go messing
And they've
with
kind of
that.
got a double fail-safe on them since,
Yep.
the way they're set up. But it's the sensors inside that go bad.
Right. So yeah, you don't want to mess with that.
Just get another one, try it.
Okay, that's what I'll do
All right.
then.
Thanks for the call, Frank.
Thanks a bunch.
You
No
bet.
problem.
Take care.
Yep.
We're going to jump right over to David in Georgia with a 01 Accord. Hi, David.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Pretty good.
I appreciate y'all's show. I've learned a ton from you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a 2001 Honda Accord. This thing's been around a while. We got it from my father-in-law. My wife drove it for a while. Now I drive it. I have been driving it. So it's got about 97,000 miles. So it's a long commute in that. So back when we were in the summer, I noticed it was hot and AC was on high, and I noticed it was in stop and go traffic, but the temperature started to creep up, and in order to control that, I had to turn the heat on, and it seemed to be okay, and started kind of doing some diagnostics on my own to see what might be the deal, what the issue was, and discovered it seemed like it was low on coolant, And I also noticed that the coolant reservoir was above max. And so I ended up draining the coolant, refilling it. I was going to put a thermostat in it, but I didn't. Kept doing some research, and I thought, well, maybe I've got a head gasket that's leaking. So I did a combustion gas test with the fluid that you stick on top of the radiator.
Yep, you're going the right direction, we think.
Okay. So it would either turn yellow or green if it detected that, and I could see that it was slightly green, not a strong green. It was definitely not yellow. So I would empty the reservoir back into the radiator, get it where it needed to be. It'd be fine for a couple of days, it seemed like, and then eventually it would pop back up and be full. When I also replaced the radiator cap, thinking maybe that there was a problem there. When I open the radiator cap, when the car's cooled down, like the next day, it will release pressure directly into the overflow tank, which I'm not sure if that's right or not.
Yep.
So my question is that telling me for sure I've got a head gasket leak? And if it's not, do I need to do a pressure test or something else? And if it is, pressurizing the coolant system, is it worth me trying to fix it? I'm comfortable wading into it. I've never done that before to replace the head gasket, but it's a fairly simple car. Everything's kind of right up there on top.
I wouldn't get too concerned with it quite yet. The first thing I'd do would be to get a thermostat. Most auto parts stores are going to carry a Motorrad thermostat. I would get one that's correct for that car, because something, I say simple as, but they would not tell you that it's simple. If you've got a problem with the pressure in the radiator, that's a major issue. So one of the basic things, just having like a good battery to get a car started, you need a good radiator cap to keep the pressures correct so that when it cools off, it sucks coolant out of the reservoir into the radiator. When it heats up, it expands, it allows it out. If it only goes one way, it's going to keep filling that up, and there's going to be a problem. So you definitely start with a cap. If you put the cap on there and it still doesn't fix the problem, with that engine and the age of the car, it would be a super candidate for a bottle of K-Seal.
Look at the card I have in my hand that fell out of my pocket walking up here this morning.
That's funny, the K-Seal card?
If you're watching on YouTube, I have a K-Seal business card in my hand from Chris Vita, our account manager. And I had gotten this from him at SEMA 2 years ago, and I put it into my contacts, and I was going to give it to Russ today, so he had it. And the K-Seal Ultimate, it's going to help stop any leaks and prevent future leaks for sure. Yeah, it's a good product. We use it in our shop. People say, "Oh, repairing a can." Well, frankly, this is.
It is.
And so if you've got a minor leak, it's a great candidate for that, and it's not going to hurt anything by putting it in by the way it's made. It doesn't have some of the nasty stuff in it. This is based on a ceramics technology, correct, Russ, versus the sodium silicate that a lot of others use. And
it's
definitely
a very good product.
It's a K-Seal, and just call it by name. And the K-Seal Ultimate is what I would put in there.
Does that help you out there?
Well, let me do that. I'm glad you said that. I did put the small can of the K-Seal in there. I forgot to mention that. I didn't use the Ultimate, but you could think maybe the Ultimate would be worth it?
Well, yeah, you could try that, but first put the radiator cap on.
Do that first.
Okay, I did do the radiator cap. I didn't replace the thermostat, but should I
definitely do that?
Just the cap. Okay.
No, do the thermostat in case there's some crossed wires there as we're hanging up for the top of the hour here. But no, we definitely do the thermostat, and you've already done the cap.
This is the Under the Hood Show, brought to you by Sturdivants. This is the end hour one. We'll be right back. 866-594-4150.
You're listening to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can Participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. I am Russ Evans. Thanking you for listening Under the Hood. And Shannon Nordstrom.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
He's with us too. But Chris Carter. No.
But he's got a good reason.
He does.
Very good reason.
Children's Miracle Network Radiothon. He does this every year with his partner station, KTWB. That's where he's at during the day on the Chris and Doc Show. And they get together every year for the Children's Miracle Network, and they help out children. There's a lot of children here in our area, part of Sanford, a lot of kids with cancer that are going through things that none of us are. We all think we have something going on. We're having a bad day. Car won't start. Your battery's dead. You can't get that drain to go away. But these kids, they've got it a lot tougher than we do. And we have a link right on homepage of underthehoodshow.com where you can donate to the Children's Miracle Network, CNM. Check it out.
Yeah, Chris has been involved with Doc and their station. They have raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for CMN. Chris has received national awards from the Miracle Network for the work that he has done, and so it's a big deal. They put a lot of heart and energy and work into this event. So he gets a hall pass for being gone today, and we're really excited to be able to help promote what he's doing. So
I think he'll be back next week.
Yeah, we think so.
Yeah. One more week this year.
Yeah.
Just one.
We're giving him
we're
giving you a hard time, Chris.
Yeah, then we're all gone. All right, we're going to jump right into the phone. We're going to talk to Jess in Wyoming with an 08 Jeep. Hey, Jess.
Morning, Under the Hood.
Hey. What's up with that Jeep?
I got a 2008 Jeep Liberty 3.7, 130,000 miles on it.
Okay.
I've tried to put ethanol gas in it, run it, like you say, down below a quarter. And it runs like crap every time I do. But if I put pure gas, no ethanol, it runs like a top, like a sewing machine. So I've been using Berryman's B12, like you say.
Okay.
How often should I use it if I'm using that type of gas with that kind of miles?
Well, first off, when you say that type of gas, how much of that type of gas are you putting in it? Are we talking 10%? Are we talking about E88 with a 15 blend? Are we talking E30 or 85? What are you doing?
Pure gas, no ethanol gas.
No, when you're running ethanol.
It's a little higher price. Pardon?
What are you running with ethanol? Just the standard, just 10% at the pump is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If it's running that bad with 10%, it's not the ethanol. It's the vehicle. And running that Berryman's in there, that's you're headed towards the fix. It probably has some really dirty injectors in it or some combustion chambers that are getting pretty carboned up. And so when you are putting the cleaner in there and it's running better, that's telling me there's something like that. Now, you might try a professional fuel system cleaning. Chrysler vehicles like that Jeep, they really seem to benefit the most from the fuel injection cleanings because they seem to get the dirtiest for some reason, and they seem to get the cleanest once you do a professional cleaning. You can use the Berryman in there, run it, clean it up. You're going to be probably putting it in there if you've had to do it several times to make it work better. You're probably going to have to follow. I would definitely put the professional cleaning in it, like have them hook a machine to it, professionally clean it, and then run the cleaner in there like once a month. It depending on how many miles you're putting on, but if you're doing, just a couple tanks a month, yeah, it definitely doesn't hurt it. That's kind of like the dentist office. You got to go in for a cleaning. If you never go in for a cleaning, but you brush your teeth 3 times a day after every meal, you're still going to get a buildup, which is going to result in a big problem eventually. But
just not as quick.
If you do a cleaning, you can keep on top of it and maintain in between. So if you do a professional fuel system cleaning and then you keep on top of that with regular treatments in between. So let's say it's 100% clean. It was a brand new vehicle right now. If you're using that even every couple months, every 7-8 tankfuls, that's a huge way to maintain the vehicle.
Now, just kind of go back into your particular situation. You could choose just to continue to use the regular gasoline without the ethanol content and not have the drivability issue you're having, but eventually the problem will it'll proceed enough where you'll start having the problem with the regular gasoline also. And so,
okay,
it's just right now probably at a happy point where it doesn't like the alcohol content, but because it makes just the combustion that much different in that particular thing, and it's not adjusting enough for it. And this is unusual because every vehicle that we see at our shop is, when they're working correctly, they have no problem with E10. They have no problem with E15. And most have no problem with E30, to tell you the truth.
If they're running well.
But if they have drivability issues or tune-up issues, then you'll start noticing it reacting to that.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes, that does. Okay. I'll have the wife schedule an appointment and get that done.
All right. Take care.
And also, I wanted to give a shout out to Randy at the front counter.
Oh yeah.
And Benji.
All right.
Last May, I came by because I wanted a hoodie, but we was on vacation, and I said, I am stopping by there and get me a hoodie. Shannon happened to be in Spain, and I think he took all the hoodies with him because they were out.
Just 2.
So, well, it must have been the last 2. So I'm going to have to order it now. It's getting cold enough. I need to order one. So
we got them on the
I just want to
website.
give a shout out to those 2 guys. They gave me a little tour of the place, and I was highly impressed with the operation.
Hey, Randy, I'm gonna have Doug keep on the line here. Excuse me, Jess. I wrote Randy down because I was gonna make sure Randy and Benji heard this call, but I'm gonna have Doug take your number here, and I'll take care of you personally on a hoodie.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah, he'll get your information, and I'll buy one on our own website, and I'll send it to you personally.
Well, I greatly appreciate it, and great show. And please, everybody on YouTube, hit that like button.
There you go. We appreciate that. We have had we challenged some people a few weeks ago to make that switch, and we went from 6,800 to like 7,100. I think we're up to now. Just from that one shout out. So when a hoodie says it, we'll probably get closer to 10,000.
Yeah, we'd like to get to 10,000. That's a good place we'd like to be.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
I never miss a show.
Awesome.
Never miss a show. Great.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you. All right, Doug. I'm going to put him on hold instead of hanging up like I have all those other times. We're going to jump right back in, and we're going to talk to Jeff in Michigan with a Escape. How's the Escape, Jeff?
How you doing?
Good. 19
Yeah,
Escape.
I really appreciate your show.
Thank you.
Yeah. I got a quick question on that. It's a 2019 Ford Escape, roughly 63,000 miles on it. And I try to maintain it. I do the radiator flush at dealers, but I did the trans flush. It doesn't have the pan, so it's got a drain plug, and it's got a side plug on the side of the transmission, then a vent on top, so there's no dipstick.
Right.
So when I'm changing this fluid, roughly 4.5 quarts come out, and I think it's a 9-quart capacity.
Right.
And I usually drain it, then I put in 4.5 quarts. I warm it up completely, make sure the vehicle's level, because I have to have the driver's tire off to get at that plug, the hex bolt. And when it's filled properly, fully warmed up, should the fluid be just on the bottom of the hex bolt, or should it be maybe running out just a tiny bit?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm filling it properly after I change the fluid.
with that vehicle running and not hot, but warm, say the fluids were like around the 120, 130 degree mark. So it's not completely cold. It's not super hot. With it idling in park and you pull that plug out, it should just barely drip, just drip, drip, drip. Then that's full. If it runs out, it's too much. If there's nothing coming out, it's too little.
So if you happen to overfill it, can you just let it run out until it gets to drip drip then, correct?
Right. Yeah. And a lot of times we fill it through that side port we've got a device designed for that. So
just specifically for that. When I fill it, I take the vent off. There's a little clamp on top of the engine compartment, and I just pour it through there. It makes it a lot easier.
You can do that.
And I've already done it. It's only 63,000 miles. I've already done it. When I first did it, it was just black. It was just like black is dirty oil. And so I've done it 4 times already. And the other question is, as far as the fluid, I've been using a full synthetic max life. It's like the VLV. Is that better than using just regular traditional conventional oil in it?
Well, yeah, the conventional that it calls for. If you use this full synthetic, that is a better product. So it'll help it last.
You're definitely
going
to want to check on. I want to say this not for you in particular, but for other hoodies out there listening that are doing a lot of their own services.
Yep.
Always check to make sure that the synthetic brand that you buy, that they are matching the spec of the factory fluid. Because we do run into certain vehicles that the factory fill is all we'll put back in them. I don't know how you guys make those decisions on when to use factory fill and when to go with something else.
Well, if we've got one that runs funny and requires something like a Schaefer's or something better, we'll put that in there. But also, we make sure that is compatible. We have a chart that tells us if that Schaefer's is compatible with what we're doing.
Because don't you have some of the Mopars that's all they'll let you put back in there, or is that not the case anymore?
You can use some others, but they better specifically say right on their PDF on their website, this is approved for that. And
equivalent
then if there's
to
a
this
problem,
fluid.
Yeah, if there's a problem because that transmission's ruined or shifts horrible because of that fluid and it can't be fixed, then they're taking on that liability for saying that. But you just check on their website of the manufacturer of the oil, and it'll
make sure it specs up with the factory fill.
Yep. Does that help you out?
That makes sense. That does. I really appreciate you guys, and I love one of your advertised Car Dash parts.
Oh yeah.
I bought a when we bought the car. It's a 19 Escape. It was only 2 years old, but the person was a smoker, but it had great maintenance history on it, and the driver's seat had a couple spots that the dealer fixed, but it was horrible. And I found a seat that had airbags built in, the heated seats for $125.
Oh, wow.
It was 3 miles from my house, and it was plug and play. I just unbolted it, put it in, and it looks brand new, and the wife is happy because I told her
that's awesome.
I'd find the bottom part. But then I'd look other places, it'd be $400 or $500 just for the bottom. I got the whole seat for $125. And there was no delivery charge. So that was awesome.
That is perfect.
Car Dash part.
Perfect transaction.
Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah, there we go.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. Take care.
All right. Thank you so much. Keep up the good work.
You too. All right. The End of the Hood Show will be right back. The End of the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturtevant's.
If car repair was cheap, you wouldn't need us. We're Under the Hood.
Welcome back to the End of the Hood Show. I'm Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom, taking your calls, getting you back on the road, hopefully cheaper than if you did it by yourself. So
we save people some money, and that feels good. Because, I mean, there is plenty of capable folks out there. They're just not, they don't do this every day.
No.
And so we can maybe get them steered the right direction. And for the people that do this every day, we know we're not perfect in our answers, but we're definitely trying to help people get in the right place to be able to help themselves a bit. And if nothing else, to ask you the right questions or to have done the right paying attention to help you fix their car better. I've never really said that before, but we've got a lot of listeners that we've helped educate on what to pay attention to.
Yeah.
So that they don't go in and waste everybody's time by saying, hey, can you look at this? Because they're able to be a little more astute with the right information when they call in. And having good information when you're going to a reputable repair shop that really is there to help you is a big deal. it helps everybody get to the finish line quicker. So it's exciting to be able to do that for folks.
We're going to jump to the phones. We're going to talk to Bob with a 99 Corvette. Hello, Bob.
Yeah, hi.
How's your Corvette doing?
I purchased this car. It's a 99, got 29,000 miles on it. And I knew the seller told me, there's an ABS issue. But then after I bought it, I didn't know the part is going to be hard to find.
Oh, you need an ABS hydraulic control unit, don't you? The whole unit with the module and everything in it.
Right.
Yeah. When you said hard to find, I knew exactly what it was.
What was you just said? I missed you.
What's my best option to get it fixed?
Car dash part for that unit, because you're going to be connected with thousands of yards across the United States that are going to be able to help you with that part. If somebody's got one, car-part.com will have that. I would imagine there's probably at least 10 of them out there, wouldn't you think, Shannon?
Unless it's just one of them that's hit that lot where they don't make a reman and there's no new ones available.
They don't, as far as I know.
Sometimes that'll fall into a pool where they come up and they sell. Yeah. They come up and they sell. And
so you keep looking, you'll find them. But yeah. I had to search for one for somebody about 7-8 years ago. And car-part had them at the time. But I was like, I think they had 5 or 6 of them.
Well, just for they are a partner of ours, and we do have our professional salvage inventory on there also. But car-part, what it is, it's an aggregate of recyclers all across the country, and their inventory is electronically wired to one cloud hub of information. And so when you search by make, model, year, part, it's going to show you by different search terms, whether it be who's the closest to you, who's the lowest price, if it's a sheet metal part, what grade it is. I mean, there's different factors you can sort by. And then at that point, you're on your own to make a deal with whoever you choose to call. The caller before you found a seat for their 19 Escape that was a smoker's vehicle. And then when they did the search, they found one 3 miles from their house that they didn't know existed.
Cheap.
And they paid like $125 for it, which is cheap. That's a bargain. And somebody just apparently was trying to sell the seat quick, and it was another salvage yard, and that was perfect. So I have a lot of hope that you'll be able to find that assembly there. And it can be programmed again to your vehicle. That's not a problem. And if worst case scenario, I don't want to really say this on the air, but I'm going to. There are a couple of guys that we know that we can send some of those ABS units to that will repair them. And we don't do it very often anymore because usually you can get the most popular ones. There's usually a remanufactured available now. And then also we just have a big enough network where we can usually find another quality used one that's not having the same problem.
Does that help you out?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Bob. Thank you. Thanks for calling Under the Hood. All right, we're going to jump right over and talk to Richard in Oregon with a 23 Camry. That's a pretty new one. How you doing, Richard?
It is, and so far so good. No issues with it. So it has 3 different driving modes: Eco, Normal, and Sport. And I've always kept it in Eco, and it's got that thermally efficient 4-cylinder engine in there, and the mileage is fantastic on it. Plus, it's got the dual injection port and indirect, so it helps with the carbon buildup. But from time to time, parked in the garage, I'll hear what I think is some type of a pump from the back of the car, and it comes on for a period of time. I've never, timed it, but the car starts fine, so there doesn't seem like it's draining the battery too much. So I guess it's supposed to be doing that. I don't know what it is. I've got the owner's manual. It doesn't talk about that kind of stuff.
Even with the key off, it'll do it.
So I'm just wondering. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So that is a emissions pump for the evaporative emission system. Many cars are running this now. The government mandated stricter emissions to test these things at different times so the light wouldn't come on. They're trying to avoid the old somebody left the gas cap loose type thing, or they refill it.
Right.
Mainly it's when they're refilling it with the engine running. They're trying to avoid that, and they'll test it with the car off now so that the exhaust heat and all that doesn't affect it. So yeah, that's what you're hearing is that pump. It's normal. You'll hear it run. It can run up to 30 minutes after the car shuts off. You can hear it click and come on. So it's a great question.
I'm surprised. I mean, your dealer should be able to explain that to you. You'd like to think, but that's something you could call back, and a service manager, or if they talk to their salesman, would be able to tell them that most likely. But it's a great question to ask because I'd be worried about anything running on my car when I'm not in it.
Right. I've looked around. There doesn't seem for that. Now it's a past generation. They've got the 25s out with it's all hybrid now, and so mine's from 18 to 24. I can't find a repair manual any place for that car other than, going online like Mitchell Manuals and paying for a subscription. I just want something, I can, download the program on my computer, and at least I have a PDF of looking around for stuff. Any ideas on that?
That's the only place you can get it is online through Mitchell or ALLDATA.
The days of the Chilton's manuals are long gone.
Yep.
As far as for the new stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks for the call, Richard.
Well, thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, thank you.
The Under the Hood Show will be right back in just a moment. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant's, 866-594-4150.
If car repair was cheap, you wouldn't need us. We're Under the Hood.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. I am Russ Evans, along with Shannon Nordstrom.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
866-594-4150. You can get on Under the Hood. Just like Justin in Washington, who has a 1999 Suburban. How you doing, Justin?
Doing good. How are you guys doing?
We're all right. We're doing good. Hanging in there.
Nice. I'm a big fan of the show.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
What do you got going on today?
Well, I have, like you said, 1999 GMC Suburban with 200,000 miles. It's my daily driver, and I'm having power steering issues. But it's intermittent, so it's hard to turn while I'm in parking lots or like turning into a parking lot. And before I go and replace anything, wondered if you guys can shed some light on like the EBO solenoid, the EBO sensor, and I came across something called an EBO module / pass lock. Wonder if there's any relation there.
Well, one thing that I'll give you a head start, you've got a head start. Most of our listeners that call with problems like this, they just haven't been exposed to the fact that the vehicle has any ability electronically to moderate the power steering assist.
Through an electronic variable orifice.
Yeah. Is that the...
That's what it is.
Okay, I couldn't think of the acronym.
Well, you got to have a variable orifice to change the fluid flow to
Yep.
give you more assist or less. And, of course, it's electronic. You don't have a water valve on the dash to turn it.
Sometimes if I eat the wrong thing, I get a variable orifice.
I am surprised they never did come out with something manually adjustable for cars. Before this was available electronically, you would think performance cars like Corvettes and things like that would have had, I'll bet you some Ferraris and things like that
some
had
of the
it.
stuff on the racetrack, they probably had something
Oh,
like
racetracks, they always did. Yeah, you could adjust that. But I'm talking about like for a car you're driving on the street, you could fine tune it. You can just turn that down a little bit. But
They first started putting this system on the Chevy trucks and Suburbans in 1996, I think. With the
Vortec
generation.
When that Vortec engine came out, 5.7, they started doing that, and it became problematic. And what's probably going on with yours, and was very common with these, if you're driving into a corner going down the road, and you turn, and it's pretty good, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, hey, the steering feels too tight, and then it's too loose, and it goes back and forth as you're doing that down the road. It probably has a failed steering angle sensor, which is located at the bottom of the steering column under the dash. That part failed all the time. We put so many out. The first time I had to diagnose one of those, it wasn't like I just said, oh, it's this. No, I had a heck of a time. finally I ended up, what I did is I just replaced it. It was like playing part starts with the thing. Like, well, replace this solenoid on the power steering pump, do this, that. And somebody had already put a gearbox and a pump on it somewhere else, but they had kept their old orifice off the back of it, didn't come with it, but nothing fixed the problem. So I was like, all right, what's going on? I said, what's this going on? A module, this, that. All right, that fixed it. So now that I know that that angle sensor fixed it, what was wrong with the old one? So I took the old one and I just plugged it in and hooked my oscilloscope to it, and I turned it back and forth and then tapped on it and looked, and I could see voltage spikes, positive, negative, up and down on that thing all over the place as I turned it. When I plugged it into the new one, I didn't have it. I said, there's my problem. That thing is spiking as it's turning because it's old and dirty, and the wipers inside are not contacting anymore like they should. And it's telling it, hey, somebody's turning the steering wheel really fast. Let's tighten up the rate of turn. They're not turning it very much at all. Let's loosen it way up. So that is the most common thing. As long as your speedometer isn't wacky and dropping out and giving you weird reading, because that will do it too. Then I'm leaning more towards that steering angle sensor at the bottom of the steering wheel. And that's a bolt-on part. Give that a shot.
Yes. All right.
All right.
Well, I appreciate that.
Thanks for the call, Justin. Take care.
Thank you.
You bet. Bye.
You guys take care.
Where are you at in Washington? Oh, he's off. He's gone. Look at that.
It'd been good to make that connection because you got family back that way.
Well, I'm just wondering if you're out in the Yakima area or anywhere in Washington, try West Side Pizza. Delicious. They're not a partner of ours. Well,
they could be.
Technically, yes. Technically, no. But
they could go down to the local station and they could advertise on there.
Oh, they could. They could.
And they'd be a long distance partner of ours.
I'm just saying they don't pay me to eat their pizza. It is delicious, though. I do like it a lot.
We do have one of our customers here, Chris from Chris's Auto Repair, that he was trying to get the station in one of the cities that he's near to run the Under the Hood show because he loves it.
That one's been controversial for years.
Yeah.
On and off. Their call letters are KCAR as well. Car, isn't that funny? And they don't do any car programming.
KRZ. Wow. KARZ. We'd love to have
KARZ. Cars.
We'd love to have the show on there.
And they changed their call letters. They were something else. They went to that right before they changed. They were going to run our show, and then
so he went over to one of our original stations in Madison, Minnesota, and is sponsoring the show now.
That is awesome. I'm sure they're very happy there. Old Minnie Pearl. I haven't talked to her in years. I bet she's still around.
But that was one of our first affiliates.
It was the second affiliate.
Yeah. I mean, that would have been 20 plus years ago.
Yeah. Hello, everybody out there in Dawson, Madison, Minnesota, Mitchell, South Dakota, affiliate.
Yeah, that was an early one.
And
Pierre, South Dakota was there for a long time.
I can't remember the exact order. So we had Pierre, Lemon, Dawson, Madison, Mitchell was the first, and they just kept growing from there. And now we have close to 250. I can't recite all of them.
Number moves around a little bit because of changes.
But
stations.
I do know where most of them are at. So it's
thank you to
good.
all of our affiliates.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody, for listening out there. We appreciate it. So we better get some calls on really quick. So.
I brought that with me, and when you brought that up, it was a good opportunity to. I can get rid of this note now.
All right, we're gonna jump on and talk to Ryan with a '96 Silverado. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good. And I have a '96 Silverado with 289,000 miles on it, and it's ran great. And we were on vacation for about 2 weeks, and came back. And now every time you start it, it ramps up to like 2,000 RPMs for about a minute or two. Then it goes down to normal. And if you put it in drive, it ramps back up and just wants to keep going.
And we're talking about that's a Vortec 350, correct, or is it a 350?
Yep. Should be if it's
350. Yeah.
Yeah, that shouldn't do that. I'm just trying to think on that which one they had most of those we had was with it's still a cable-driven throttle. That's not electronic yet until 99, but they had some issues with that idle air control motor not being able to control that position of that. So first thing we would do would be to thoroughly clean that throttle body. And then on that one, do a hard reset by disconnecting the battery on it for about 10 minutes. Stick the two once you take them off, hold the cables together for at least a minute, and then hook them back up and restart it and see if that clears it out, because they do have a problem with the dirt in there causing the throttle body to get a little wonky as well. But I would give that a shot first before you spend any money. Don't throw any money away, because you might be able to save some in your wallet.
Is that truck going to be affected by a vacuum leak as much as others could be?
It would, but it usually, you would hear it, and it would be compensated at least partially by that electronic throttle control on there.
I just didn't know if he had a big vacuum leak or an intake gasket that decided to not be, because they lost a few intake gaskets on those. If that would make it idle up, but
you'd pulling oil too.
Yeah, you'd have another problem.
Yeah, check for vacuum leaks first, but then I would definitely start with cleaning out the throttle body. Does that help you out, Ryan?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks. Take care, Ryan. Yeah, the electronic throttle bodies, or even the ones with the cable driven, if you are not keeping those clean, you are asking for trouble. They do build up a little mist from just oil and carbon and things coming out of the engine. Every time you shut it off, if you got a valve open, which you will have some open when you shut it off, that vapor is going to come up, and that's where you're getting that black gunk on your throttle body. So we're going to take a short break. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturtevant's, 866-594-4150, and you can get on Under the Hood.
If car repair was cheap, you wouldn't need us. We're Under the Hood.
If car repair was cheap, you would not need us. And that's why we're here under the hood to help you out. 866-594-4150. We're excited. We're just going to jump right in it. Phones are lit up here. We're going to talk to Ellen in Montana with a 2007 Cadillac truck. You got the pickup truck is what you're saying?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Yes, I do.
What's wrong with it?
The backup thing doesn't go ding, ding, ding.
The
they
backup
call
thing.
it parking assist. Yeah, ding, ding, ding. They call it the parking assist.
Yep. Gotcha. All right. Well, we're assuming we shouldn't, because a lot of people don't. Do you have an owner's manual for it?
Yes, I do.
And you read it?
Otherwise, I wouldn't know what to call it besides the ding, ding, ding.
Oh, the backup ding, ding thing doesn't work. I gotcha. All right. So does it have one on the front too, or only the back? I think that one's only available in the rear.
Ultrasonic rear parking assist.
All right. So it does have that, does not have the front. That's just the strict rear. That's getting in the beginning of those. Well, does it have any warning lights or weird things on? Does it have the light or anything on there that shows anything at all, or is it just nothing?
There's an orange warning light that the manual says have the engine checked in or serviced in.
Okay, that's the check engine light. That wouldn't have anything to do with this backup alarm, but I am guessing that you probably have, from what we've seen on these, the failures, probably some sensors that are bad, one or more, or wiring harness back there. The module's bad from corrosion from water and stuff in it. The first step on that to check it is to plug into it with a scanner. We plug into it in our shop with a scanner, and we can read that park assist system, and it'll tell us, is it even on? If it's not, we've got to check the wiring in the module. If it is on, then we look and see the status of the sensors and everything to see what's missing. If it's got a code in it and says it's got an open in one or more of the sensors, they're going to have to be replaced. But that's going to be your first step. It doesn't have a separate fuse just for that item. It powers multiple sources.
It communicates with the CAN bus network in the vehicle. And that module that runs that system is somewhat failure prone. It's mounted up on the inside of the bumper, and they get a lot of environment can get at them.
Oh, yeah.
Matter of fact, we had a bunch of those that were surplus right from the factory where they built the Suburbans and the Tahoes. And is yours an Escalade, or like an Escalade EXT, or is it like the Suburban looking ESV, or what do you have?
No, it says EXT, and it's a pickup.
Yeah, so it's like an Avalanche chassis
Yep.
type thing. Popular vehicles. I had an O2. I loved it. I fixed one and we drove that thing for a long time. But that module fails, and they're not overly expensive. I know we've got a bunch of them we put on eBay because they're just not that expensive, but people do buy them from time to time off of eBay because I don't know if they're not available anymore or not, but there was an early and a late. I happen to know that too. So you got to match up your VIN number and the specs for that vehicle, but there's a really good chance that either, like Russ said, one of those sensors is bad, throwing it into a tizzy, or the module.
Okay, so take it to a dealership because I'm no good with like cars.
Or you could go to just an
And,
independent repair shop too. Either one, they'll be able to tell you what's going on with it.
A dealership or someone that does the electronic repairs on vehicles. Not every shop does that kind of
If they
stuff.
don't do it, they're just going to like if it's an independent shop, they're just going to say, "Yeah, we don't want to work on that." So then you could go to the dealer. They'll definitely be able to help you out. Thanks, Ellen.
wow, you guys are great.
We try.
I listen. I love you.
Oh, that's
Bye.
awesome. We got to get your ding, ding, ding thing fixed for sure.
You betcha.
All right, take
You
care.
betcha. Stay warm. Bye.
We will. All right, we're going to jump over and we're going to talk to Mark. Mark. Here you go. Push that button there. And Mark, how you doing? What's the oil question?
Well, I have a question about changing oil on seasonal vehicles like lawnmowers and motorcycles. If it's better to do it in the fall or the first thing in the spring. I know, a lot of times the recommendations are so many months besides so many miles. And so if you did it in the fall, you'd be eating away at that month time frame. But, I wonder, well, should you have the dirty oil in it all winter? So that was one question. And I got another.
For me, I like to change everything and get it ready for the next season. Because in the spring, I just don't want to get out. It's like, hey, it's a nice day. Let's ride the motorcycle. Oh, I'm going to change the oil first and look at the spark plugs and all that. It's just better, or the boats and jet skis and things, just get them ready now, put them away. And then if they're all ready in the fall, you don't have to remember in the spring, did I do that one or not? I got a little drawing chart on the wall that I write on oil change. So that's the way I like to do it.
Yeah. So you just disregard the 3 or 6 month recommendation for oil change in that case.
Well, the biggest thing is you got to make sure that whatever oil filter you have on these units, if they have an oil filter, that it's rated for extended drain, long life. And a lot of these are going to be rated for that. So if you've got a lawnmower, they know that a lot of people aren't changing the oil for 2 to 5, 10 years. So they've got some better spin on oil filters and things. But if not, and they offer that option, you definitely want an extended drain. Like the Wix filter makes an XD model, and it's extended drain for people who aren't changing them, whether they just don't change their oil enough or whether they let the car sit. Maybe they're stored, or they're classics and it's just sitting.
And there is definitely schools of thought to this for people, because if you're storing the vehicle if you happen to be fortunate enough that you can store it in a climate controlled storage, I'm 100% with Russ that do it in the fall when you're putting it away, and then you can take it right back out again. There are some people that have to, store stuff in cold areas, and they're hot and they're cold and they're hot and they're cold. For sure, you want good oil in there with a good chemical package to handle that for the storage. And if you're not able to get that done, you definitely want to change it when it comes out of storage, because it's probably got moisture has gotten into it. And so I think you could play either side of that coin and find an argument that makes a little bit of sense, is when I've talked to other people too about this on small engine stuff, especially that doesn't get used through the winter. But if it's sitting in a non-climate control, and it's, we get, in our part of the world, we got days that are 60 degrees, and then 2 weeks later it can be 5 degrees. And that's a lot of changes in the metal and condensation that happens inside the crankcases, and so it's just a lot to keep track of. So, that's definitely two sides of that coin can be played, but the fresh oil is definitely needed, even if you're not using it, is the main point, is the way I look at it.
And I bought a motorcycle that had been sitting for 2 years, and ran when it was parked, but it needed a big expensive carburetor clean out when I got it. And the guy had said who sold it said he'd put stable in it, and the motorcycle mechanic said, well, that only probably saves you for about 6 months or so. And so I wondered, how about an open container of stable sitting on the shelf? If that's several years old, is that any?
That is,
any
they
problem?
actually, they have a warning. I just was putting stuff away. They have a warning right on there. If you've opened this container, you need to use it. It says right on the label. If you don't use it within a certain period of time, they're not gonna. It's not working anymore.
Proper fuel system stabilizer, no matter what the brand, if you open it and use it, will usually keep that fuel good for a year, is what I find in a lot of stuff. But if it's been opened and you put it in something and it's like a year old, oh, I got it last season, I'll use it this year, it's probably not going to work at all. A lot of it absorbs moisture, and the properties that make that product work are gone at that point. So
I think it says on there, bigger bottle, because I had a bunch of stuff I was doing. I think it says use within 2 years, which I thought that sounds like a long time. But they also have got a really funky bottle, that bigger bottle, that's very sealed because the way they have it set up, where you squeeze it to get it into the fill neck. And so they've done a good job probably of isolating the product a little bit more to open container. And so they feel good giving it a longer term. But whatever it says on the back of that container, I would definitely follow it.
Yep.
I know everybody's got their conspiracy saying, well, they just want to sell more, but I think there's a chemical science to that they understand and we don't.
Yep. That help you out?
Well, that answers another question.
Oh.
You squeeze it to get it into the fill neck. I've been trying. I keep tipping the thing back and forth.
Oh, don't do that.
No, that is a great container. You just take that small lid off and you squeeze it, and you can meter your 1 ounce into there, and depending on how many ounces you need for what you're protecting. And what I like to do, whether this is the right or wrong, put it in, and then go top off the tank to fill it all the way to the full, and then run the vehicle for a little bit, as my routine to get the vehicle warmed up and good and warm, drive it around a little bit, and then shut her down.
Yep. Yeah, make sure you get it mixed thoroughly, because otherwise, I've seen people put stable in like their snowblower or lawnmower. They put it in the tank, and then they don't start the engine, and there's no stable in the
And guess
carburetor.
what? That carburetor in that expensive motorcycle has no stabilizer in it.
Yep. Not good.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, thanks a lot.
You bet. Thanks for the call. Take care.
Bye.
Oh, man. So I'm looking at producer Doug. He's giving me the signals. Give him the signal. There you go. Get on the phone, Doug. All right. Thanks, man. So, hey, we want to thank Jason Spencer. I would say he is our top YouTube fan. He sent us a Christmas card. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And you know what? If you claim that you're the top YouTube fan, well, first you got to subscribe and you got to like every show. Jason likes every show. He comments on every show. He subscribed like back in the beginning when we had like a half a subscriber. I think he was our first subscriber. So
Can you
Jason
get
Spencer,
a half a subscriber? That's good.
he lets us know when there's a problem, like when, he was probably going, yeah, the camera's not broken. He's just figuring something out. I know he said something about the camera not working last week, so he didn't say anything the first hour when our camera was all over the place. And
Oh, hey, we got all of us now.
Oh, yeah, I turned the automatic thing off, so it just sits right there.
Yeah, earlier I looked over and we had just like a head of Russ.
It made me look shorter. It was set for Chris, so it was on automatic. See, Chris is down there. Way down. Anyway, I can't even sit that low. Chris, we're talking to you.
We love you
Can
down to
see
the
us?
Children's Miracle Network Radiothon. Hope that everything's going great and you guys are doing an awesome job, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's Chris does that every year. CMN, Children's Miracle Network. Help find a cure for kids' cancer.
Go right to our website at underthehoodshow.com. You can donate there too.
Thanks, everybody. Another hour in the can of Under the Hood. 866-594-4150. And just like that, it was done. I was a little short. I should have. It had cut me off about 2 seconds too short, but that's all right. Gets back on YouTube quicker. See, just like that. None of that music delay. You think we were gone, but we really weren't. We were still here on YouTube, and that's where we're going to jump in and talk to Paul in Minnesota with a 20 Duramax 3500. Hey, Paul.
Hey, how are you guys?
Oh, we're having fun today. This is great. But how are you?
That's good. Well, I have a mysterious horn honking and blinker situation going on. It doesn't matter if the fob is in the truck, out of the truck. So what I recently discovered, if a tire is low, would that cause that system to go off when you shut the pickup off, or
no,
if it's sitting there running?
No.
I don't think
Okay.
that truck, Paul, has the. Does it have the system that when you are filling it, it will honk the horn when you get to the right
Yeah.
level?
Tire pressure.
Yes, it does. Yep.
I suppose in theory, or do you have to be into a mode to do that? I suppose in theory, if that thing was hanging between a certain air pressure, if it was low, could it trigger that?
So,
I'm going with your theory a little bit here, Paul.
This is what I've noticed. All of a sudden, this pickup just started honking one day. And after I shut it off and I had the fob in my pocket and I walked away. And there's no messages on the dash. And then the next time I noticed it, the right blinker blinked. And I'm like, well, this
You've
is
got the
weird.
truck shut off,
So I
right?
talked
You shut it off, you
Yep.
walked away, you
Yep.
closed the door. Okay.
Yep.
There is not a. Try this. You walked away with a key fob in your pocket. Leave that key fob in the house and go back to the truck.
It doesn't matter if the fob is in the pickup or not. It does it both times.
That's what I mean. Take that fob away with you. Go put it in the house. Then come back to the truck. Get in the truck and hit the start button. See if it starts up. It might have a key. There may be another key fob that you don't know about that's in the truck somewhere. So this does it with mine. If I have my spare key fob, my wife sitting in the truck with hers in her purse, I turn it off. I get out. I walk away with my key fob. It goes beep because I left the key fob in the vehicle with
So
it
it's
turned off.
it's giving you that signal that hey, your key's still in the vehicle.
It's telling me the key's still in the vehicle. I'm like, no, I've got it right here in my hand. Oh, she's got hers in her purse. It's not.
So I bought the truck last year and I only got one fob with it.
Oh no, you probably
I
got
don't
two.
think there's one in there.
Yeah, you probably got two. Yeah, so try that.
Okay,
I
well,
guarantee you,
maybe.
if you can walk away and put that thing in your house and still get in the truck and it starts up, don't lock it when you walk away because you won't be able to unlock it if the key's in there. You can't push the button on the door to unlock it. But just walk away with the door unlocked. It'll honk. At that point, put your key fob in the house, come back, see if you can get in the vehicle and start it up. If you can, you need to find out where that key fob's at because you can't just disable it. You got to locate it. It'll be in there somewhere, tucked up under the carpet or something. They do weird stuff. We had one in a car one time.
That
Some
Ford. That was a Ford Focus ST.
Yeah, it was lost, and it ended up being under the carpet. It like fell into the console and through between the carpet and the floorboard under the console. I mean, we tore the car apart to find it. First we said, I don't know what's doing it. So they took it. Customer had it, said, no, this won't work. So then 4 hours later, we tore it apart. We took the seats out, took the console out, pulled the carpet out. When we pulled that carpet, because we couldn't pull it back far enough on the front to just see it. And when we took the seat out, it wasn't under the seat. So we said, oh, pull the console out, keep pulling the carpet. And sure enough, when we pulled up that carpet, it was right down there in the corner. It was like, hey, here's an extra key fob for you. That'll save you some of the money buying a key fob for what it costs to dig it out of there.
That's the theory we're going to go with until we have you test that, Paul.
Yeah. But
so this is why I think it's tied to the tire system because the right rear tire was low 1 pound. So I didn't mess with it. All of a sudden now, since it got cold, the left rear tire all of a sudden was 1 pound low. And I noticed when it was honking and blinking, now it was the left side blinker. So I did put air back in it, and I haven't heard it honk yet. So I'm wondering, is that part of that system?
Well, yeah, if your tire is low, I think some of the Fords that do that, if you've got a low tire when you shut the car off, I think it will honk the horn and also flash the light, not just left or right, but left rear or left front. It flashes the light according to that tire, but it has to get really low. 1 pound won't do it. When it reaches the I'm so low, let's turn the warning light on.
Yeah, which is usually a few pounds.
Yeah, that's when it does it. And that is programmable, the threshold of that. But it usually flashes the corner of the vehicle associated with the tire that's low. So, yeah, start by putting air in all 4 of the tires and see if your problem goes away.
But I'm going to go back to this again because I haven't done that for a while. Paul, you probably, I know who Paul is. He's a smart guy. If you're that system, though, when you air up the tires on that, does the vehicle have to be running normally?
Yep. No.
Okay. Yeah,
the key has to be on for it to honk.
But there again, if you got the key not with you.
Well, the accessory has to be on.
Okay. So you've never had it honk when the vehicle hasn't been on at least accessory?
No, it'll honk when you shut it off and walk away. And it was really weird because my son noticed, now it's honking and a right blinker turned on. And now the other day when it honked, I turned and looked at it quick, and it was the left side that was blinking.
I'm
like, well, okay, so I wonder if this is tied with the tires. So then I put the air in the back 2 tires because they're at 59 and it's supposed to be at 60 for that system to go off, I think, or to put the light on in the dash.
Have you ever rotated?
Once I did that, now.
Okay, go ahead.
Once I did that, now I haven't heard it honk.
That's a pretty close threshold if it's only 1 pound. But that should be able to be.
Yeah, that's what I wondered. I was just kind of curious if that was the case.
Yeah, I don't think that light comes on until it's like Shannon said, 3 pounds low, but that threshold might be close. It might need to be reprogrammed to change that, widen that up, because that'd be too close if it's just 1 pound.
I'm still curious about the fob thing.
Yeah, I need to know about that.
Yeah. Well, I asked Papix when I was in there the other day, and they said, you had a fob in there. And I looked high and low, and I did not pull the carpet out. I'm going with Russ's theory there that there's a fob in there somewhere. But from 2020 till now, you would think that battery would be dead in that fob.
Oh, you never know. Just do a little test. Just take that other fob and put it in the house, see if the vehicle starts.
Okay. Yeah,
but this is fun. I know my daughter just recently, I was moving her car out of the garage, and the message light on her Nissan said low tire. It doesn't tell you which one it is.
Isn't that great?
So I go around and I check them all, and the right rear has 15 pounds in it. I'm like, I got a low tire. There's no doubt. So I purposely overfilled it, knowing that she had to go to school in the morning, and I didn't have time to mess with it, thinking, that'll get me through the day. And so I came back later that night because I had to go in the garage again, and I checked it again. It was still at 44 pounds. Like, it hasn't moved a bit. And then I checked it the next morning before I came to work. It was still at 44 pounds. Hadn't moved a bit. I'm like, So I lowered it down to 35 pounds. I thought, I'll be a little braver. And she came home, and that night when I got home from work, I checked it. It was at 35.7 pounds. Hasn't lost a bit of air. And I'm like, how is this tire at 15 pounds? She got somebody messing with her? I also noticed she had a big door ding in her right front fender she didn't know about. And so I'm like, maybe somebody's playing with her and, being mean to her or something. So I said, Ava, have you had a low tire light on? And she's like, yeah, I have. And she goes, and Bella and I, we put air in all the tires. They were all low. And I go, who did the right rear? And so she's thinking about it. She hasn't, sure. I think what they did is when they were trying to put air in the tire, because she did have low tires because of cold temperature, that they let air out of the tire.
That happens all the time.
While they were filling it.
How do you know if the machine's even working?
Yeah. And so she's hearing noise, and that whole time they were letting air out of the tire. And
it was very cold. Well, when we had that last blizzard ice thing, and I had driven south to Texas, and it was frozen, rainy, and we were in my brother's truck, and he needed some air. He had low tire lights were on, and he's like, I'm just going to get some air. He was so mad because we went to, I think, 3 places trying to get air. The first 2, you have to put the credit card in the machine.
I hate that.
Yeah. So we get the credit card, the machine, you hear it, and it doesn't sound good. Hooks it up to the tire, and his tire's getting lower now. So his tire is going from like 30 pounds. Now it's down to like 25, and he's like, nope, this isn't working. I'm like, yeah, the thing's probably frozen and it's not pumping any air out. It says it is. So off we go to the next one somewhere else across town, and find another one. There we go. That one's in order, it looks like. Let's try that. It's going down too. Like, do you know any place that has the old-fashioned hose hanging on a wall that you don't have to put in? He goes, no. He goes, everybody down here charges. I said, we're just going to have to wait until it's a little warmer. And it warmed up later in the day, and then we tried another one, and it worked. But those things, you don't know. If it's not increasing pressure right away, just stop. Because if you got a tire that's 28 instead of 32, you can get by with that. If it drops down because you try to put it in, you're down to 15, maybe not so much.
Good thing she was just driving back and forth to school.
Yeah.
Paul, one last question before we let you go. This truck you've got, I know you guys like the diesels. Is this one modified?
It is not.
Okay, it's all stock. Okay, I'm just curious.
Well, this new motor is pretty dang stout, so it hasn't had a tune yet.
Okay, I was curious. You guys like to have things just a little different, so I just had to ask. So
when you look at the tow ratings of these new vehicles, and let's just say we're looking at the 24s, why would you need to tune it? I mean, I am just amazed. You look at a HD Cummins, the Rams, and their tow rating is 30-some thousand
it's a
pounds.
crazy number. It's like a little semi.
And you're like, what? And who would need more than that? Because if you've got that kind of tow rating, they'll pull down a mountain. They just keep going up. But my question was to my wife the other day, there was something, and we said, what are they doing? What, they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger on this. And I thought, okay, the same thing with, it was TVs. Saw a sign. It said 100-inch LED TV, and it had a sale price on it. And I thought, oh my gosh, 100-inch TV. I know they were starting to come up, but now they're more, and now there's a sale. When do they stop? So Shannon, what do you think if they keep making them bigger and cheaper, other than for a commercial setting, what's the biggest you need in your house? I mean, really, 100-inch, I don't know where anything bigger than 100-inch would fit in anybody's house that I know of, even some of the big
When
ones.
I built my house, we put in a projector with a screen, and it's 112.
Okay. So you could put a regular screen.
But I mean,
in there.
if I wanted to, that would be a great replacement.
But could you put 130 in there?
No.
It'd be too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like with cars and trucks. So this Duramax truck in 2030, if they make a Duramax, it'll pull 50,000 pounds in a 3,500 truck. Do you really need that? Do we need to keep going up? I mean, more power is great, but there is a point where it stops. But they can also,
what they'll do though is they just get the person to buy their truck that only really needs 15,000 pounds, but they got to have it.
Well, and you even look at a 1500 series truck. There's a lot of the 1500 series trucks that are pulling 13 to 14,000 pounds now. But one thing that really gets me about the tow ratings, I was looking at a new truck and I thought, let's look at a 23. And I said, the tow looked on GM's website, and the Sierra for the 1500 with the 6.2 max tow, I think it was 14,100 pounds. I said, that's great. And then it had the little parentheses, bumper tow. And I went, bumper tow. Well, that's going to pull a fifth wheel. Great, won't it? Because it had a fifth wheel option. You could click and buy the pre-installed fifth wheel. It's not a half ton, it's a 1500. So you can get the pre-installed fifth wheel. Then I looked at the fifth wheel ratings and said, these got to be backwards. The fifth wheel ratings were like 300 or 3,000 pounds less. Well, that's not right. So I looked at a different site, looked at Camping World, looked all over. And now for the last 3 years, that's the way they've listed it on anything under 3,500. The fifth wheel rating has been less. Not sure what that is. I'd like somebody to tell me because I haven't researched it that much, and I just want to know because that's what we do. We ask our hoodies, why is the fifth wheel rating less than a bumper tow? You would think it would be more, right? Or at least the same.
If you thought theory, I can pull it, but I can't load it.
It's got to be something.
So if you got a balanced tongue weight, I can pull it and I can stop.
It's got to be something to do with the tongue weight.
I can't hold it on that fifth wheel.
Yeah,
that's interesting
because the pin weight is going to be more on that. So I mean, it could have something to do with that. I don't know, but we see these ratings all the time. But with these trucks, I do know, like yourself, there, Paul, there are a lot of our customers that are saying, "Yeah, I didn't. didn't put a tune in this for two reasons. One, because I don't want to, now I'm paying $100,000 for this truck. I don't want to get maybe caught up in the emissions thing that could happen, and then I can't license it. But also they're like, why? I put it in. I don't need to spend $800,000, whatever, for a tuner. And
he'll do that to his pulling trucks.
Well, yeah, for that, for older ones,
yeah.
but for the new ones that, they're so expensive, and you might be trading it in a couple of years, and too, they're like, why? They are pulling extremely well now. They're all these vehicles, trucks. Oh
Well, I will tell you this: we do find out with the tractors that we tune them, and they're way more fuel efficient.
yeah,
And that's typically been the case with the pickups.
Yeah, I don't know
just
what.
got this truck, and I haven't really had a whole lot of time to mess around with it.
Sure.
To be honest with you.
Yeah, I haven't had anybody tell me what. So with the Rams, they're locked out. You can't buy you and the Durham. From what I understand now, with the 24, same way. You cannot tune it. Period. You're just, there is no way to do it unless you buy a computer for it, and that computer is tunable. The computers are available in Canada. If they get caught shipping one out of Canada, they're in trouble. But a lot of them have been coming across the border other ways. I don't know what they're buying them and putting them under the back seat or what, and bringing them down.
They just busted another big company that was bringing out of Canada. It was just in the news. Somewhere I've got a news story in that pile, I think.
So they just did it. The manufacturer just said, yeah, we're just going to lock it. You try to go into our computer for any reason other than with a factory scan tool, it's just done. You can't do it. So they found a way. They still give you that right to repair act. Oh, you can repair it, but you're going to use OEM, repair methods. You can't. You're altering that. That is direct right there violation of that right to repair act if you're changing what they did. But then when we go to things like, I can't program a 2001 Bonneville now because they've locked us out because they say they don't have enough people to support the programming. We've got an AC Delco rep that has an in right with that department. She says, I'll call them because she's our rep. She called them and they said, oh yeah, they're just saying they don't have enough people to support it right now. So they're only supporting a brand new controller right from a dealership that you've bought from them with their software. Like, yeah, that's great. There's always a way though. They'll find some way. Somebody's going to find a way to hack into those new computers that are currently locked. I'll bet you within the next 12 months because they do that's one great thing about young kids and tuners. They can figure anything out. They'll find a way to hack it. All right. Thanks, Paul.
What do you guys think of that 8-speed transmissions that's in these Duramax?
When they're not broken, they're great.
Yeah.
We don't, from my side of the fence, we have not had a huge demand for
they're
them.
very tough, which is great. I mean, we're good with that, and they allow you more towing with an 8 instead of a 6 or 5 or 4, but they have been holding up pretty well. What we are starting to see now is failures in the Ford transmission behind the EcoBoost. That is a ungodly expensive transmission. Used or remanufactured. We're talking like $7,500 for
I hadn't
a
seen that.
reman,
That hasn't hit my radar yet.
and $5,800 for a decent mile used one, like a 40 or 50,000 mile one. Even one, I found one with 180,000 miles on it, Shannon, and it was $4,100. Wow. They were not failing, none of them. And now these 18s, 19s, we've had 3 calls on those in the last 6 months, which tells me we're starting to see some of those go out. But these Duramax, it's super rare for us to put a Duramax transmission in an older one, even one that's pulling hard. We'll see an engine go before a trans usually in one of those. But these new ones, I haven't even had a call at all on somebody even saying, hey, I got a shifting problem or anything. That Allison makes a very strong transmission. They always have. That's what they do. Detroit Diesel Allison, they've been around forever. And they haven't sold out to the cheap overseas companies yet because they're still strong. They're still making a great product.
Good.
Thanks a lot, Paul.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. I'll try the fob thing. And
All right.
And let us know.
Yeah, that tire thing's weird. Take care.
Yep, I will. Thank you. Bye.
That's weird with the tire thing. It's got to be too close. If it is just the tires, it's got to be too close a parameter because one is not going to get you. 1 PSI is not going to get you.
Should not at all.
No. So, all right, everybody. That is the after show, the long version, which is crazy because Chris isn't here. Usually he could.
Yeah, and if you're with Chris not being here at the Children's Miracle Network, please get on our website if you're able and donate to the Children's Miracle Network. And if not, and you're not able, say a prayer for the families that are going through hard stuff right now. They could use all the support they can get.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week on Under the Hood.